We are live. All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about pressure testing, your martial arts, your self-defense, whatever system you train or teach. We're going to talk about pressure testing it in a real format, in a real scenario. What works, what doesn't work, what works in theory, what looks good when we make videos, and what actually happens when you go full out in a real, when you're trying to duplicate or replicate a scenario as much as possible close to what it might look like in real life. So I'm gonna start with a video because a lot of people were talking about this video, and I wanna talk about some of the videos I've been making lately, and I wanna break them down because I got a lot of comments on it. Most of it was good, but then obviously you got the comments that were a little bit more on the negative side. So let's look at this right over here. So right here, we're looking at a full out scenario with Costa. Now, in this scenario, Costa was gonna attack me. He didn't tell me how he was gonna attack me, what he was gonna attack me for. I didn't know at what speed, the intent, what was he gonna want? My body, my life, my money, intimidation. So when you pressure test stuff like this, it's not in slow motion. He's wearing a helmet. His objective, when I told him, Costa, even when I'm striking you, you keep fighting. Now, I could have made this video and said, okay guys, when the knife is here, you trap the knife, you strike, and and I show this technical move, and it looks really good, really easy. You watch it and you say, wow, I could do this. But what happens when you start pressure testing in real life, in real speed, with an attacker who's gonna commit to his attack, even while you're striking him, again, in close quarter, when we're looking at this particular scenario, the idea that I'm gonna walk out of this without taking any slashes or any cuts are very slim to none. Now, you saw one here, you saw one there. At the same time, I'm still trapping and I'm still striking, and he's also wearing a helmet. Now, if you do not train like this, if you're gonna send me a video of you showing me some slow motion repetitive movement with your attacker not committing, with your attacker playing out exactly your next move, then you're not training for real, right? When you're doing scenario, what you wanna do is one, go in real environments. Two, pick an attack, pick a scenario that you don't know about. Three, instruct the attacker to commit the entire time, that even if I'm getting cut, even if I'm striking, train for that overkill. And that's when you get to see, well, what happened? Now, we could play out the scenario 10 times and get more or less a different outcome. Now, I love the attacker, if this was real, the attacker would be fighting back harder. The attacker would use his second hand. It's like, how do you know how each attacker will react? You speak for every attacker? How do you know the attacker is not nervous? Maybe it's the first time he's doing. Or how do you know he's not on drugs, and even with me striking, he's still fighting back? That's the reality of it. If there's not this type of reality into your training at some point, then you're doomed for failure. Then here's my theory is, I make these videos because I want to figure out what's happening now. It's a little bit too late in real life. Your training should be harder than what you would face in real life. And I know this because when I used to work as a bouncer in clubs, we used to be a whole bunch of doormen. We would get together and do these scenarios full out. And I mean, our training was so much more harder than what I ever fought in real life. I saw Krav Maga videos, IDF soldiers teach it, complete bullshit. I saw Krav Maga videos, IDF soldier teach it, complete bullshit. I don't understand your comment, man. I mean, here's the thing, right? The only good comment that I got was, could I have trapped with two hands and release and strike with the other? At that moment, I felt a trap, I felt secure, I struck. But again, it's the same thing if you're doing knife, if you're doing gun, if you're doing sucker punch. When you're doing pressure testing, you want to, again, it's that element of surprise of what the scenario that the person that you're attacking doesn't even know what the scenario is about. So I got another comment, well, I would open the door and trap the knife. I'm like, he's leaning on the door. Oh, I would drive off. I'm parked. Like, you could only break down the actual scenario. You can't just start breaking down theories of how he would react and how it would be for real. So when you're looking at these scenarios, so you want to learn the theory, you want to do drills, and then you want to go out and do scenarios and pressure test. And again, we could play the same scenario and maybe I wouldn't have get cut. Maybe I would have took 1 slash instead of 4 or 5 or 2 or whatever it is. Another very important thing is, are you training for your mindset? So it's not, oh, you got cut, you'd be dead. You don't know that, right? You don't know, and you don't train for, oh, I got shot, I'd be dead. I got stabbed. No, you train for overkill. That means even if you got stabbed, even if you got slashed, even if you got punched, even if you got shot, you keep fighting. You want to train that in your scenario training for your overkill mindset, right? So let's look at another little scenario here with Helen. Let's look at Helen's scenario over here. And here we're looking at Helen's scenario. Helen's using verbal. She's bringing up her hands. Again, the idea that I'm just going to run. She's in a bathroom stall. She's pinned on the wall. Look how beautiful. She distracts him. As soon as he drops, he starts striking. Now, the idea of this pressure test was what? Everybody tells me, oh, you're an idiot. I'm just going to run. Just run. Most attacks happen in close quarter range. 71% of attacks, knife attacks, happen 3 to 5 feet and the knife is deployed only in the last second. So the idea that she's going to just run, right? So it's easy, just run. Just, I'm going to take my gun. There's always an easy answer. Like there's always, I could have, I would have, she should have, but if it was real, again, you have to look at the scenario for what it is. She can't run. She's in her heels and her skirt. Why? Because people are, you're not in your dojo and in your mat. We're doing scenarios in real environments. This is how people are dressed. They're not dressed in their dojo. They're not in the mindset of a fighting. They're caught off guard. They're not fighting in an open space. They're fighting in real environments and spaces that challenge you. And only then you could find out what works and what doesn't work. So when you're pressure testing, dress like you would dress in your everyday life. Go in environments that you are most likely living in, or maybe, if you work at an office, go through your daily life. Okay, I'm in my office, I take the car, I have to walk through the parking lot, I pick up my groceries. Take those environments, put yourself in those situations and play out the attack. And again, it could be rape, it could be money, it could be kidnapping, it could be intimidation, it could be, it could be just, the guy is a crazy ex-boyfriend who doesn't want anything else but to hurt you. So when you're playing out scenarios, don't tell the trainee what you're gonna do. Just say, look, you're walking to your parking lot. Or you say, you're walking to your parking lot, this is your ex-boyfriend. Okay, but that's it and that's all. And let the trainee experience all the ups and downs and all the decision making she has to make. Now we're going to look at one last scenario with Helen here. And this one over here is domestic violence abuse. And let's look at the domestic violence abuse, which is this one right here, right? So, I heard an instructor, well, if this was real, she'd be dead. How do you know she'd be dead? And Helen shares a story about somebody she knows who was attacked and stabbed 8 times. She managed to fight off the attacker. She sent him to the hospital. Obviously, she was in the hospital too, but she survived because, again, it's mindset. One thing's for sure, the moment you give up, the moment you stop fighting, then you allow him to decide whether you live or not. If you're in the fight, give it everything you have. Now, in this particular scenario, we played out a domestic abuse. Now, Helen didn't know what he was going to say, what he was going to ask for, how he was going to attack. She did not know the scenario. When you're doing scenario training and pressure testing, don't just make it physical. I tell people, because this is a series of 12 videos of my Tactical Edge program, doesn't necessarily mean you got to go preemptive. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to fight. Sometimes you give him the money. Sometimes you don't fight back. At this point, Helen felt like she was fighting for her life. Now, look, this is not fake. Nobody's pretending here to attack. This is as close as possible to what we can create in terms of reality. Now, the idea that he would have been grabbing her, he would have done this, and he would have done that, I could tell you the same thing with what Helen could have done. Again, you have to break down the scenario for what it is, not what you starting to fantasize. Somebody else told me, well, just imagine what it would have been like. No, I can't. I can only go based on the scenario. And when you're pressure testing, you're not breaking down theory. You're breaking down what you're actually watching. Now, we could replay the scenario again and then get another outcome and then take it from there. But the idea that, I would have grabbed a pillow and thrown it at him, or I'll use an improvised weapon. There is no improvised weapons at that moment. So you have to look at the scenario for what it is and break it down and not just create, fantasy, outcomes or fantasy solutions to it, right? So I think that if you're training in your martial arts, if you're training your self-defense, again, I could have made these videos and be like, okay, 1, 2, 3. Come at me really fast. 1, 2, 3. And give you the illusion that it works. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. But when you do it full speed and you do it with an attack or an intent, and then you find out it doesn't work, I'd rather make it hard. I'd rather make it, even if you get cut or slashed, and even though you look at it and you're like, wow, this is a lot harder in real life, but at least it gives you a perspective of awareness before you decide to fight back, to at least know what it's going to feel like to a certain extent, and me teach you some bullshit slow motion move where your instructor is like, in the instant you're both basically choreographing a fight scene and trying to make it real. I agree, street fights are scary, guys. I worked in clubs, right? I know what it is. And that's why I do these scenarios, because I want people to explore it here, now, in this environment. And we break them down. We're like, okay, what could she have done? How did it look? What it cost to do? But at the same time, you have to break down the context of the video and not just the story, and start creating, imagine, what if there were two? What if he had 2 knives? Yes, but in the scenario, he didn't. It was one attacker in a home. And again, I've never said anywhere, guys, against a knife fight, you're not going to get cut. It's going to be easy. It's going to be flawless. People know me. I've been doing this for over 20 years. I make these videos because I want to show the reality of it. And I could have easily edited the part of me getting cut in the car, but I didn't. Why? Because it's real. It's in real speed. Was my technique bad? No. Shit happens. As much as you train, as much as you prepare, even the best fighters, even the best scenarios, you're going to get cut. But at least you're showing the reality of it. And that's really important. And again, the problem is with a lot of systems is that a lot of the instructors won't do that because they won't put themselves out there. And I'm calling out any instructor right now. You tell me you can do it better, make the video. Like I've said, I called out a whole bunch of people. Guess what? They delete the comments or they never answer. Make the video, send it to me, do the full out scenario. Do the full out scenario, send it to me. Show me your technique in full speed, full out, with the attacker committing and not slow motion, because let me tell you, I'll be able to see right through that. But so far, 0. Why? Because the reality is, it's not that easy. right? It's not as, look, she's trapping, Costa's really trying to pull away. He's grabbing her. This is what, you know, street fights or self-defense doesn't look as pretty as you train it in your gym, in your dojo. It's chaotic. It's scary. There's, you know, you go into tunnel vision, adrenaline. Look at her. So it doesn't play out like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go 1, 2, and 3. And your attacker reacts to every one of your move and just never counters with anything. The reality, once I trap, he's gonna fight. He's gonna start striking back. I might fall. And I tell this to people, do you train to slip and fall? No. I go, guess what? It happens. Right? You have to train for the unpredictable. You have to train for what you're not prepared, because that's the reality of it, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to follow, share the video. And again, any of you instructors out there, you want to leave me a message, put your money where your mouth is. Don't write to me. Send me a video. I will even tag you. I will tag you, right? Don't yap. Don't sit in front of your computer. Make a video. Send me. Show me your technique, and don't show it to me in slow motion because they will rip you apart. Show it to me in full speed with helmets, full out, with somebody like Costa. And I told Costa was instructed. Don't go slow. Don't react. I want you to fight back with everything you have at every scenario. Suddenly it changes, guys, but that's the reality. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe, hit the bell, and make sure to check out my tactical edge weapon, guys. Stay safe.